Wondering about that cinema ticket, which amounts to $10 today, even though it amounted to $3 some years ago? Those essential commodities which are costing you dollars, even though they were the cheapest of things some years ago? Things would have been a lot different had that economics teacher of yours taught you everything in college, right? But fear not, because change begins from the moment when you decide to break those shackles. When you decide to throw away your ordinary lifestyle and raise the bar, that is where the revolution begins. Before we move on, make sure you press the like and subscribe button so that you stay updated with all the happenings in the world of finance. Welcome to 5-Star Finance, the place where you learn how to achieve financial freedom. Why is it important to understand inflation? The world today is a lot more different than what it used to be. You don't need to rely on the system to teach you everything about financial management. None of us really like the idea of paying substantial dollars for things which were bought for a handful of cents some 5 years ago. No doubt that the governments are obsessed with tracking inflation, and they try, more or less, to keep it on the lower side. For that purpose, a vast amount of data is collected with great precision so they can determine how the inflation rate is varying by the time. This helps them analyse whether inflation is on track or it is growing rapidly. In the 17th century, the Spanish Empire collapsed. And the reason for its demise was that they couldn't track inflation and its origins. By that time, societies have become obsessed with studying inflation and tracking its progress. So, what makes it happen? There are 3 main reasons. The first one is what economists know as the cost-push inflation. Cost-push inflation. The cost-push inflation happens when the cost of businesses goes uphill. From the businesses, this inflation is transferred to the customers. This can be thought of as a pandemic. This type of inflation can have a heavy toll on the pockets of ordinary citizens. Now, there are many reasons for cost-push inflation. Firstly, if the raw material gets expensive, the inflation rises rapidly. And for a very good reason. Raw materials like oil, wood, and natural gas are essential for top-notch businesses competing out there. And if there isn't any cheap raw material, that means they must go an extra mile to get that material. The rarer the raw material, the more expensive it gets. And this expense is transferred to the people. Secondly, the workers might be demanding more money. This could happen because they've got a lot of support and have organised themselves. Or because the schools and colleges are not producing enough trained officials for the skill a business might demand. Another important reason for the increase of cost-push inflation can be the increase of land rents. With the growing real estate industry, the rents of land are always on their way up. This can also happen because of the inability of businesses and companies to secure essential building permits. One of the reasons for this can also be the political manoeuvring, resulting in increased cost. The result of all this is that the businesses will now try to make up for that extra cost that they've paid. The businesses put the extra costs onto the consumers by raising prices. This involves a lot of risk, but they're usually out of options. The second type of inflation is known as the demand inflation. Demand inflation. This happens when there is a rapid increase in the number of organizations or people who are demanding the supplies. This means that the businesses now have to double up their supplies, which results in the demand inflation. The most common cause of the demand inflation is basically a nice thing. The people are actually generating some serious wealth, and they are making more money as compared to what they used to make previously. This is when the government can cause inflation by lowering the taxes. Now, we all know that everyone loves tax breaks because this means that the people will generate more disposable income. But the fact to be understood is that in the longer run, this particular scenario will increase the demand. This will nullify some of the initial break which was given by the authorities and will result in the increase of demand, which will result in inflation. Similarly, a short-term fall in interest rates can result in short-term pleasures, but it will result in long-term inflationary pressure. For example, if interest rates on loan payments and mortgages fall, we might be tempted to buy that expensive car we've always wanted to drive. But the car company, seeing that there is an increase in demand, will sooner or later increase the prices. Now, if the banks and the governmental authorities inject more money into the economy, people will now have more money to spend. But if they're all chasing the same thing and the same goods, that means this scenario will result in inflation. Printing of money by the governments. The success of a government depends on the mere fact that whether or not the government has succeeded in providing more job opportunities or not. There is a deep sense of logic behind this idea, which can also be cruel. For this particular purpose, the government start to inject more money into the economy. This can be done by increasing the government debt or by letting banks give bigger loans on the same security. This results in the increased circulation of money in the economy. But this also results in substantial problems. The worth of these notes starts to fall due to the sole reason that more notes are now chasing the same thing. This will result in the increasing of prices. Now, this will also come with short-term pleasures. It takes time for the value of money to fall. So for a short period of time, there will be money with the same prices for essential goods, which will create prosperity. In such times, people can afford to buy more. Firms can afford to work even more and produce more, resulting in increased production. So that means there will be more stuff to actually get your hands on before inflation comes and takes everything away. Slowly, the value of money will fall, and this will result in inflation. Let's not forget that a bit of inflation can always improve the economy, as quoted by John Maynard Keynes. That is a big but contested idea. The argument can be made that it doesn't actually matter if the prices are going up by 10% a year, only if the wages are going up by 15%. That means that the people have more money to spend. Even the increase in prices can result in an improved economy. So this government-led inflation can result in an improved economy, but it can also backfire as it includes high risk. Any move which results in the increased inflation can always be attacked and targeted by enemies. So the million-dollar question which arises is why inflation is such a problem. Why inflation is such a problem? The problem is that not everything will inflate at the same rate. For example, if inflation goes up by 20% and everyone's income also goes up by 20%, everything will be quite steady and predictable. Well, it would be absurd and weird, but truth be told, it wouldn't do anyone any type of harm. The major blow comes when inflation comes with varying rates for different essentialities. For example, if inflation goes up by 20% for dairy products, 45% for the automobile industry, 50% for the construction company, and so on, that's when inflation really hits hard. Not everything changes at the same rate. Or another way of putting this can be the inflation which took place in Hungary in 1941. Inflation reached 150,000% a day. Now that's incredibly absurd. This means if a chicken cost 10 pennies on Monday, it will cost $150 on Tuesday and $225,000 on Wednesday morning. This irregular change can be cruel for ordinary citizens. This would be a problem if other things like wages and bonuses are not increasing as fast as the inflation itself. The money that could have bought you a house on Monday will bring you a chicken on Wednesday. Not to mention that this is the ultra-extreme case, but it demonstrates how inflation can be cruel on the people if it is varying substantially for different things. How inflation is bad for savings. If inflation is increasing rapidly, it is worse for your savings. Now there's no point in saving money with a high inflation rate. When the inflation rate is low, saving can be fun because it helps you plan and be fruitful for your future. But saving when inflation is going uphill is not an admirable characteristic. It binds you in many ways, and moreover, it won't matter how much you save because a good chunk of it will always go in the bin due to inflation. If you're looking to embark on your journey to financial independence through stock market investing, we've always got your back. Check out the link for the ebook we've provided in the description for 6 different stock categories and start analyzing them to build a passive income portfolio right away. So what do you think about inflation and its types? Do you have a plan to tackle it? Is it good for investing or not? Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on another video. Check out this video we handpicked for you, and we'll see you in the next one.